Good evening and welcome to our celebration of the St. Louis Sports Hall of Fame class of 2023. Now, I know that for most of us, our cell phones are surgically attached to our body. But as a courtesy to everyone at your table and everyone at your room, we kindly ask you to silence your cell phones. We appreciate that. Good evening, I'm Ron Jacober, and this is an amazing class of outstanding athletes and contributors to the St. Louis sports community. We are delighted and honored that you have joined us to honor this amazing class, which includes, as we hope you have read in the wonderful program at your seat, the class includes a legendary tennis player, one of the best basketball players ever from St. Louis, an athlete who grew up in poverty and after the crowds stopped cheering, gave back to help the youth who need help. It includes one of the best hockey players in National Hockey League history. It includes a guy that had the honor, the lifelong honor, of throwing the last pitch in a Cardinal World Series championship. It includes several contributors who helped St. Louis make St. Louis a world-class sports city, not just a baseball town. And if there was a Mount Rushmore of public address announcers, there are two guys here tonight who would be in the center of that mountain. They're the voice of summer and the voice of winter in St. Louis. We're also honored to celebrate tonight in this historic building. The Missouri Athletic Club was founded 120 years ago for the 1904 World's Fair and for the St. Louis Olympic Games. A lot of people don't remember the Olympics. The first Olympics in the United States were in St. Louis in 1904. This building was built in 1916, 107 years ago. And when it's really quiet in this room, where so many classic sports celebrations have taken place, if it's really quiet, I can hear the voice of Jack Buck. Jack emceed so many dinners and celebrations in this room. He was the best ever. 3 years ago yesterday, Greg Marisek, the founder and president of the St. Louis Sports Hall of Fame, died. Greg loved St. Louis, the teams, and the athletes. The Hall of Fame was his passion. But he drove those of us, and he was like my brother, by the way. He drove those of us who were around from the very beginning a little nuts with his ideas at times. Some of the ideas were brilliant. Others were, let's say, less than brilliant. But everybody knew Greg. He was like a brother to all of us. He was an idea guy, not a detail guy. 13 years ago, he convinced a man named Tim Moore, the man he called Coach, to join as his assistant. So Tim was Greg's detail man. When Greg died, many of us who were around the Hall of Fame from the beginning wondered if the club would survive. Well, we should not have wondered. Tim grabbed the reins, pumped new life into the organization as the executive director, and is currently probably the main reason we are here tonight. So please welcome the executive director of the St. Louis Sports Hall of Fame. Put your hands together and welcome Tim Moore.
Thank you, Ron. It's truly an amazing night to be here with all of you, and I thank everyone who has supported the St. Louis Sports Hall of Fame in some way this year and other years. A night like this can't be done without a great group of men and women who are part of the Hall of Fame team. I want to introduce some members of that team now. Wes Edwards. Wes is over here. He's my right-hand man. Christy Scheidegger is here. She is also one of the assistant directors. Ron Jacober. You all know who Ron Jacober is. I don't have to explain that. Myron Holtzman. Myron is on the leadership team, and he's the one who creates all the souvenir programs that we had. Don Jacoby's outside. He's been checking people in. I don't know if he's up here right now. Tom Calhoun is another member of our leadership committee, and Ed Wheatley, right here. You know him more from the St. Louis Browns fan club. We have about 19 other team members who work closely with us to make things like this happen. The Hall of Fame couldn't exist without those people. It's an awesome turnout. What an awesome turnout to support our inductees tonight. I want to thank all of you for being here and supporting your favorite honoree. It is our honor, the Hall of Fame's honor, to recognize these men, women, and teams tonight. Yeah. As I look around the room, I see Chris Pronger, NHL Hall of Famer. How about that? He's from Dryden, Ontario. Believe it or not, this summer I spent a week one day in Dryden, Ontario. But if you want to catch walleye, there's no better place to go. Frank Viverito's over here to my left. He led the Sports Commission for 27 years and brought so many great sporting events to St. Louis, including the Musial Awards. Carolyn Kindle's right here in front of me, the first female CEO of an MLS club. Truly amazing. David Lee. David, did you wear your championship ring tonight? Oh, come on, man. We would have loved to have seen it. But he's got one of those NBA rings. Justina Bricka to my right. Debuted in the U.S. Open tennis tournament at age 16. Age 16. I don't know what I was doing at age 16, but not perfecting some skill. Jason Motte's out there at table 8. All he did was lead the league in saves in 2012. Quite an accomplishment. By the way, Jason, your old neighbors, Flo and Vince Ryan, told me to say hello. So, hello from Flo and Vince. I hope he knows them, who they are. Rex Sinquefield is right here in front of me. All this guy has done is make St. Louis the chess capital of the country. Rick Gorzynski is at table 33, the beloved coach. The beloved football coach of Hazelwood East High School. Rick led the Spartans to 2 Missouri State football championships in '89 and '95. And as you could tell, there are a lot of ex-players here to support him tonight. Demetious Johnson's children are here this evening, to my right and to my left. DJ made the lives of countless inner-city youth better with his Demetious Johnson Charitable Foundation. And that guy could play some football, too. I've always wanted to do this. Now batting for the Cardinals with number PA on the back of his jersey, John Ulett. John, it's been over 40 years since we played slow-pitch softball for the Zubs. That's the same amount of time you've been the PA announcer for the Cardinals. John, could you hear me? Could you hear that? I was wondering if you did, after 46 years of listening to rock music at Casey with headphones on, I'm surprised you can hear it all. It's a tough night for some of these guys. So I'm like a kid in a candy shop just to be in the same room with all these great sportsmen and women who have contributed so much to St. Louis sports. You're truly amazing, and I can't wait for each of your interviews. So on with the show.
Your wife called and said she knows what you were doing when you were 16, by the way. On January 3rd, 1987, a young announcer sat down at the old arena on Oakland Avenue, that old barn out there that I love dearly. Sat between the penalty boxes, opened up the public address microphone, announced 7 Blues goals that night against Calgary. That young announcer was Tom Calhoun. He made $25 that night. That was 36 years ago, and Tom is still behind that microphone almost 1,600 games later. If I watched 1,600 hockey games, they'd put me in an asylum someplace. In all that time, he's never missed a Blues game. Not one. 1,600. In addition to the Blues job, he teaches mass communications at college, PA voice of the Gateway Grizzlies baseball team. And tonight, after many years of doing this, I'm passing the gavel as the master of ceremonies and the microphone to that man that I call the voice of winter. Welcome, please, your dessert-covered hands, Tom Calhoun.
Thank you, sir. Howdy, everybody. Let's make some noise tonight. I had to do that. That's just sort of my routine. I'd like to thank Tim Moore for stealing all my material tonight. We should have coordinated this a little better, you know. There's going to be a little redundancy when I get into everybody's introductions tonight. But first of all, I'd like to thank Ron Jacober. You know, Ron has been with the Hall of Fame since it started, and I don't know where I'd be tonight if it weren't for Ron, because probably delivering pizzas in Omaha or something, I don't know. But he gave me a break a couple of times in my broadcasting career when I really needed one, and he's my hero. Can you give him a hand for me, please? Wow, this isn't exactly the Moose Lodge here, is it? Wow, sheesh. How was dinner? Everybody okay? Open bar, eh? Not bad. Steve, if you'll bring me a Cuba Libre right away, I'd appreciate it. You know what a Cuba Libre is, right? No? Little Diet Coke or Coke Zero, shot of rum, little floater of tequila on top, squish of a lime in there to spice it up a little bit. That's my go-to drink at the old man cave. So anyway, this is a great room, and I'm just honored to be in the same room with all of you people, and standing in a similar position to what my hero Jack Buck did back when he was still alive. He, and I think you man's the same way, kind of inspired us to get into broadcasting with saying things like, "This is the greatest job ever. Free food in the press box, free everything in the press box, and I get to watch sports all the time." And, you know, that sold me. So here I am, thanks to Ron and thanks to Jack. You're going to have to put up with me. Our hall doesn't do speeches, or it doesn't do speeches, right? What we do is interviews, like Ron said earlier, and it makes people more comfortable. You'll probably hear something in those interviews that you probably wouldn't have heard in a speech that hopefully you'll go home and tell somebody about, because interview situations make everybody a little more comfortable. And we'll try to keep those somewhere around 10 minutes so we can get out of here at a reasonable time. So let's get on with the show. Our first enshrinement tonight, unfortunately, is a posthumous one. Demetious Johnson was born in St. Louis, July 21st of 1961, and passed on Christmas Eve of last year, at age 61. He grew up in the Darst-Webby housing project, was the youngest of 8 children raised by a single parent. He graduated from McKinley High School and earned a full football scholarship to Mizzou. And during those playing days at Mizzou, he was recognized as a premier defensive back, earning all Big 8 honors. He graduated with a degree in education and was drafted by the NFL Detroit Lions. During his pro career, he was the Lions' defensive captain. But in this city, a sports hero can become much more than that when they give back. St. Louis Sports Hall of Fame 2022 inductee Frank Cusimano remembered his friend on a KSDK broadcast soon after Mr. Johnson passed.
Finally, I come to you with a heavy heart tonight. I lost a friend, and St. Louis lost a great man. Former Mizzou football star Demetious Johnson passed away because of a heart issue on Christmas Eve. I think all of us are in a state of shock still. This was a healthy 61-year-old man. We all thought he was going to make a speedy recovery. In fact, on the day he died, he got out of that hospital bed with his family there, and he gave an eloquent speech of thankfulness to them. His daughter even recorded it. He was the most thankful person I ever knew. I mean this. The day before he passed, with his wife Pat holding the phone in the hospital, he called to thank me for covering his Christmas present giveaway. You know, sometimes men don't express feelings well. I covered almost 100 of his events, and after every one of them, he would call to say, "I love you, big dog, and thanks." But mostly what he was about was helping others. He grew up in the projects and knew what it was like to need help. So he helped. Oh, did he help. Thousands got turkeys on Thanksgiving Day. Hundreds got presents on Christmas Day. This went on for decades. Kids got scholarships from his football combines. He united us at all of his foundations. You'd see rappers, mayors, lawyers, coaches, athletes, black, white, and Asian. I would just shake my head at his golf tourneys, wondering how he knew all of these different people. So I have no idea why God took him early. I do think maybe his heart gave out because he used it too much. And anybody who knew DJ would concur. And I bet when he got to heaven the other day, St. Peter said, "Come on in, and a job well done."
Job well done, Frank. And now joining Frank on stage with remembrances of Demetious is another of his great media friends, Randy Carricker of 101 ESPN Radio. Frank and Randy.
It was interesting that Tom mentioned that if it wasn't for Ron Jacober that he would be delivering pizza. One of my favorite stories about DJ, we used to do a show on Charter called Chalk Talk. And one morning, right at the beginning of a hockey season, we were recording Chalk Talk on a Monday morning, and DJ says, hey, Big Dog, can you get me a pair of tickets for the Blues game on Saturday? And I was working at a radio station that carried the Blues. I said, yeah, sure, no problem. And later in the week, I got him his tickets. And a couple of weeks later, and I assumed that he was going to take one of his daughters to the hockey game. A couple of weeks later, he says, hey, man, can you get me a couple more hockey tickets? I said, yeah, no problem. And I did, delivered them to him. And then about a month later, the Blues are home again, and we're getting ready for Chalk Talk. Hey, Big Dog, can you get me a pair of tickets for the Blues game on Saturday? And I said, absolutely, no problem. I guess your daughter really is enjoying Blues hockey. He said, what are you talking about? I said, well, you get these tickets, I assume you're taking your family. He said, oh, no, man. What I do is I give the free tickets to my pizza guy, and I get free pizza from him. So he got free pizza all the time because I provided him with Blues tickets. His pizza guy loved the Blues.
So it's 7:30 a.m., and I'm in my bathroom shaving, and the phone rings, and I see it's DJ's number, 314-568-1204. I'll never forget it for the rest of my life. And so I want to start off by pissing him off, so I pick up the phone and I say, Republican National Headquarters. He goes, you a fool. And then for the next 5 minutes, he lectured me on why Vachon is better than DeSmet, why Magic Johnson will always be better than Larry Bird, and why Drew Lock will never make it as an NFL starting quarterback. And as anybody that knows him will attest, he really got loud. So it's 7:30 in the morning, and my wife is still asleep. And then all of a sudden, he's really going at me hard. She starts to come into the bathroom and opens up the door with these sleepy eyes, and DJ, at the very end of the conversation, says, hey, I just want you to know I love you, man, and thanks for everything you do. And then I hang up the phone, and my wife says, what the hell is that? So his loyalty was his greatest quality, and there's just no doubt about that. Like, he could yell at me and tell me I'm bad on the air or I'm wrong about something, but if somebody went at me, he wouldn't allow it. And he'd always call and say, I got you covered, big dog, I got you covered. And that loyalty was really exemplified in his relationship with Gary Pinkel, the outstanding Mizzou football coach. There was an outstanding wide receiver named Rolandus Woodland, who Demetrius said, go to Mizzou and we'll take good care of you. He went to Mizzou, and Mizzou really didn't take good care of him, and he really didn't get on the field. So Demetrius, who was really tight with Pinkel at one time, cut him off and would never speak to him again because he wronged Rolandus Woodland. That's what kind of loyal friend Demetious Johnson was.
And he had so many young players that he impacted. We would do football games, high school football games on Charter, and he was notorious for showing up a minute before the game started. He'd say, big boy, who we got tonight? And so I'd give him cliff notes of who we have and who the important players were. And the game would start, and I'd do a couple of plays, and then he'd be looking down the roster, and inevitably, DJ would know the father of one or two of the players that were playing in the game, and that would become his favorite player and the focal point of the game. And two big phrases that became synonymous with Demetious Johnson. Number one, the hammer time hit. Oh, there's a hammer time hit. And then the other one is big-time players making big-time plays in big-time games. How many times did we hear that? And it's so cool for me. We did our last game in 2014, 9 years ago. And I still have young men come up to me and say, hey, you did my game at Charter. I was playing at McClure North. I was playing at Hazelwood Central. I was playing at Kirkwood. And you did our game, and I got a hammer time hit from DJ. And so he had that sort of an impact on young people. But he had such a profound impact. And Frank in the piece talked about the turkey giveaways, which I was so honored that he would ask me to be a part of that because he impacted so many people. But Dan Weinstrower, who is in charge of the Painting and Decorating Foundation here in St. Louis, he's in the audience. DJ partnered with him to give young people an opportunity to learn that trade, painting and decorating, get them into the workforce. DJ provided an opportunity for young people to get their GEDs, and after they got their GEDs, he would have a graduation ceremony for them. Frank mentioned in the piece the football combine. HBCU coaches would come. Almost all of the HBCU coaches would come. And my partner in radio, Kerry Davis, is here tonight. He was involved with it. I don't know if Brian Jordan is here, but Brian was involved with this. And countless young people that wouldn't have otherwise had an opportunity to go to college got an opportunity because DJ provided it.
And then my final thought is, I think sometimes you can judge a man by what does he leave behind. And the thing is, with his HBCU, where hundreds of kids come and dozens of colleges come to get scholarships. Well, Demetious passed away, and Coach Collins back there had it this year, and it was a booming success. Likewise, the situation is going to be very similar with Thanksgiving, with Christmas, with everything he did because of his passion for it. It's going to last. You know, we can say after someone passes away, well, oh, it'll be fine, and it's never fine. But with Demetious, because we all have this love inside for him, these things will last forever. So he's our guy.
Excellent
and
thoughts,
the best
guys.
thing he left behind is his family, his beautiful daughters, his son Jalen, and as they will attest, every time he ever hung up the phone with them, I love you, I love you.
And to just amplify on that, it was everybody. And when DJ was in the hospital, last words you heard when you left the room were, I love you. And he wanted to spread love. And I always said at his events, I said, the world needs a lot more Demetious Johnsons. And especially now, without the Demetious Johnson, we need a lot of us in the room, all of us in the room, to spread the love that he spread and be Demetious Johnson.
Excellent. And so now, please welcome to the St. Louis Hall of Fame.
Although he's not here tonight, Demetious Johnson. You with your applause. Now coming on the stage to receive a specially created memento of DJ's enshrinement are his children, Taylor Johnson, Ashley Johnson Chin, Alexandria Johnson, Sydney Allen, and Jalen Allen Johnson.
And now here to receive the Hall of Fame plaque is the president of the Demetious Johnson Foundation, Mr. Jim Collins. Thank you, everybody, and congratulations on DJ's enshrinement tonight. Our next honoree tonight is someone who many of the younger people in the audience may not be aware of, but will be receiving some much overdue recognition tonight. Justina Bricka's athletic prowess took her to the heights of the tennis world in the late 1950s and early 1960s. In 1961, she was called up for the United States Whiteman Cup team, the annual tennis competition between the U.S. and Great Britain, where Justina scored a win over Angela Mortimer, a former world #1 player and three-time Grand Slam singles title holder. Justina was a quarterfinalist in the women's singles at Wimbledon in 1965. A very strong doubles player, her best year came as the partner of Margaret Smith in 1962 with 7 tournament titles and a runner-up finish at the French Championships. And we wondered how this international tennis star of the 50s and 60s got her start right here in St. Louis.
I was born February 15, 1943 in St. Louis, Missouri, and I've lived here my whole life. I started playing tennis when I was about 9. I was in the summer U-City grade school day camp, and I got dropped off every morning at the swimming pool because it had swimming and tennis. and I went there the first day, but after the first day, I hated putting my head underwater. Tennis has impacted my life greatly. I love to travel, and it enabled me to do that all across the United States, throughout Europe, but I'm very proud of playing on the Whiteman Cup team in 1961, and I wound up getting to play the deciding match, which was thrilling because I defeated Angela Mortimer, who was the reigning Wimbledon champion that year.
Already inducted into the St. Louis Tennis Hall of Fame. Tonight, please welcome into our St. Louis Sports Hall of Fame, with your applause, Justina Bricka.
Inducting Justina's Dinner will be Hall of Fame committee member and St. Louis sports historian, Ed Wheatley.
Well, Justina, I think this is perfect timing. What just ended? U.S. Open up in New York just ended this weekend, right? So how is it to come with one of the golden girls of tennis from the 1960s, Justina Bricka? You were one of the top 10 players in America during the 60s. So, we're going to fill this in. How does a girl from U City wind up sailing on the Queen Elizabeth to Europe to play at Wimbledon? And by the way, if you get a glimpse of Justina here, that necklace she has just had made, she had that made from one of her medals at Wimbledon. So if you want to see what you get at Wimbledon, there's one of her medals right there on her thing. So tell us how you got to be that, go to Europe and all that.
Thanks, Sam. As I said just a minute ago, I started in clinics at U City, Heman Park, in grade school camp, and I couldn't stand swimming, so I stuck with the tennis and wasn't too good at it to begin with, but I was having so much fun, I just got better and better. I never took private lessons, but continued to go to Mr. Earl Buckholz's clinics at Heman Park, at Tower Grove Park, and then in the winter in a gym down on Washington, off of Kings Highway. And that was terrific for the winter. I remember down there, I won what was called a toss-up contest. And the prize was getting to go downtown to Stixbury and Fuller, meet with Mr. Buckholz, and get a brand new wood racket. It was great. All the rackets were wood back then, by the way. So that was the start of it.
Yeah, so St. Louis was the tennis hub of America in the late 50s and 60s going into the 70s. I mean, we had Arthur Ashe, Jimmy Connors, Chuck McKinley, Butch Buchholz, Marianne Eisel, Carol Hanks, and you. You all became Grand Slam players, and it all started right here in St. Louis. What was it about St. Louis that made tennis so special here?
Well, I think it was because we had clay courts and hard courts to play on all summer, and then in the winter, it was unbelievable. We had a place called the Armory, and the Armory was a very special place with its wood floors. We could play all winter there from September through to March.
And just so the people know, the Armory she's talking about is the one they just renovated on Highway 40.
Right, and that's where the Tennis Hall of Fame is relocating to, so that'll be terrific. They were very, very fast courts, and that really helped me because my favorite surface was grass, like at Wimbledon and the U.S. Open, or at Forest Hills, as it was called then. But we played a lot of doubles because we only had 5 courts, and we had many, many players. Others besides the one Ed just mentioned. We had a lot of good players. It was incredible. One year in the 60s, the city of St. Louis alone had more top 10 ranked players in the country than did the whole state of California. And that was almost unheard of.
So let's go back to that U.S. Open we talked about. Then it was called the U.S. National Championship. But you were all amateurs. You weren't professionals. You weren't getting the big bucks like they're getting today. But at age 16, Coco, when she won this weekend, she's 19. But you were 16. And your first Grand Slam match ever was against another up-and-comer, her first match as well, named Billie Jean Moffett, soon to be Billie Jean King. And you beat her, and she remembers that still. I hear that a lot. So tell us about that first match when you took on and beat Billie Jean King.
Thank you. Yes, it was very special for me, but it was also special for Billie Jean as well. Many times in describing her career, she noted how I beat her in that match. The one thing that people don't realize back in those days, that we were all playing as amateurs. There weren't the big payoffs that you read about nowadays. There was no money, and the players who won tournaments would receive a trophy. If you won, you got this trophy, but no money. And even when you traveled, you stayed as guests in the homes of local people in the cities where you were playing. But I was fortunate I met many people with whom I have become lifelong friends.
Yeah, and you played all over the world. You played singles, you played doubles, you played mixed doubles. You played at Wimbledon, the French, the Irish, the Italian, the Swiss championships. You won the Irish and Swiss, and you were runners-up in others. But there is that one special moment, the Whiteman Cup. You won the decisive match to bring that trophy back to America. The Whiteman Cup was a women's tournament that was always held up from the 1920s to the 80s, and it's kind of like the women's version of the Davis Cup you hear about. And they quit it at the end of the 80s. But you came up and won that last decisive match. It was kind of like David Freese, a little walk-off home run thing for her country, So tell us about the Whiteman Cup.
Well, for me, it was a thrill because it was comparable to the men's Davis Cup. And I got to play for my country. It was just unbelievable. And I won. It was definitely the biggest thrill of my young career. Then, when I retired from tournament tennis, I got married, had a family, and then was asked to be the head teaching pro at the brand new Frontenac Racket Club. I remained there for 30 years, teaching as a manager, and as an owner. But then in 1980 and 81, the WTA, Women's Tennis Association, called and asked me to be the tour referee of the Avon, formerly the Virginia Slims, women's tour. That was very valuable experience. For one thing, it forced me to learn the rules of the game. But it was great fun to be back out there with completely different players. I got to know Chrissy, Martina, Tracy, and especially to see how the game had changed and progressed. I lived and breathed tennis my whole life, and that's what made it such a joy to teach others, young and old, to see a lot of them pick up tennis and love and enjoy the game as I did and still do. My love for tennis has never faded, never. And I want to give special thanks to Ed Wheatley here tonight for sponsoring me and for all his guidance in doing this, and all the members who selected me for my tennis career. It's such an honor to be included in a class alongside such outstanding athletes and contributors from my hometown, and join those who have already been inducted in previous years. I'm truly grateful. And it's a real thrill being here tonight with family and so many friends. I was born in 1943, and all I can say is thank you, St. Louis, a wonderful place to grow up, live, and grow old.
So here's a lady who heard the chants of USA, USA. We love her in St. Louis, what she did, all the greats she played with, and all the kids in St. Louis that may not have made it to the greatness, but they learned tennis through this lady here. And for that's why we're here inducting you tonight.
I am told, and I hate to point this out because he's kind of the boss, that Tim didn't mention Curtis Francois during his opening remarks. Curtis is a big deal, Tim. Worldwide Technology Raceway, Tim. 3 motorsports of the top, very, very top echelon are there every year. I'm going to get to interview Curtis a little bit later on, and we'll make it right, Curtis. Don't worry about it. Tonight's next honoree is somebody who, like me, is more known for what you have heard from him than what you have seen. John U-Man Ulett was born. He was born and raised on the near South Side here in St. Louis. He graduated from Bishop DuBourg High School in '75. And while his 47 years as one of the longest tenured FM rock DJs in radio history at KC 95 is pretty darn impressive, Cardinals fans have been blessed with John at the PA microphone for 39 seasons since 1983. Cardinal baseball simply wouldn't be the same stadium experience without John's voice being a part of it. He was at the mic for 13 National League Championship Series, 6 World Series, and 1 Major League Baseball All-Star Game in 2009. Of course, the stadium voice as well during the careers of Cardinal greats Albert Pujols, Jim Edmonds, Scott Rowland, Chris Carpenter, Yadier Molina, and now Adam Wainwright as Adam finishes up his career. And don't forget his Emmy-worthy performances as Professor U-Man on the Cardinals Kids TV show. So how did Mr. Ulett get one of the primo PA announcer jobs in Major League Baseball?
Well, in 1982, the Cardinals went to the World Series. I was not working for them then, but I was covering the team for KC Radio in the morning show. And I would come down to the games. I got a press pass, would come down to the games. The Cardinals go to the World Series that year. I travel with them to the playoffs and the World Series. I get to know some people. The following off season, the PA announcer either quit or was fired. I don't know what really happened. His name was Joel Myers, who also worked at KC. And so the Cardinals asked me, since I got to know some of them like the previous year, if I had interest. And I said I did. And they asked me to, give an audition tape. And apparently there were other audition tapes as well. And they chose me.
John's in the St. Louis Radio Hall of Fame, the St. Louis Classic Rock Hall of Fame. You didn't know we had one, did you? And on the Bishop DuBourg High School Wall of Fame. Please read more about John's great career and life in tonight's program. It will be my pleasure to conduct John's induction interview. Now please welcome to the St. Louis Sports Hall of Fame, John U-Man Ulett. By the way, our microphone caddy tonight is also a Hall of Famer. Steve Porter, the great writer from the Alton Telegraph for many, many years.
That's right.
So, by the way, that Joel Myers guy that you mentioned in the piece there, he did okay.
He sure did.
He's play-by-play guy for the New Orleans Pelicans and does some NFL games as well.
Yeah.
So, we know how you got the job now. How, in your opinion, have you kept the job this long?
Well, I'm sure there are moments when I could have lost the job, but luckily I was able to survive those things. Well, no, actually there was a time when I did get fired for a brief period of time, but I got that job back thanks to August Bush IV and the kind
Something
people
to do with
Cardinals.
A radio stunt, was it?
Yes, it had to do with a radio stunt. Yeah, what you think is funny behind the microphone sometimes isn't in front of the microphone.
Yeah.
So, it didn't turn out quite the way we thought it would, but lived through that, survived that, and got the job back in 1993 and have been there ever since.
Good for us.
Well,
Top memories of your time at the Cardinals PA mic, I guess the 2011 World Series with Mr.
Yeah, and people ask me that all the time, and that is, Game 6 of the 2011 World Series was just unbelievable how it unfolded that night. Yeah, with David Freese doing what he did. But
we were also worried about the next night, because if he didn't win that World Series Game 7 the next night, what he did, that incredible thing he did as a hometown kid, would have kind of been a footnote to history, So winning it was so important, and we did it they did it that next night, and that was the highest moment of my career down there. But there have been some other moments too.
What kind of a call would you have for a walk-off home run like that? There's not much you can do, is there?
No, as a PA announcer, no, you just it wouldn't have mattered.
Just cheer, I guess.
Nobody would have heard me anyway. The crowd was so crazy and wild. Tony Simakaitis and I were together that night. Never forget it.
At least I get to announce a game-winning goal like that after, like game-winning goal.
Yeah, you're right.
Pat Maroon, that kind of thing.
Yeah, you do get to do that. Yeah. I think someday PA announcing is heading in that direction more and more, where the PA announcer is going to start injecting themselves in the games. I mean, you hear like in football games, you hear the PA announcers go, "Third down." And feelings like
the Rams guy is just, wow.
So even in baseball,
Yeah.
2 strikes, 3 balls,
Okay.
Make noise.
So we were both inspired somewhat by Jack Buck. Tell us about your experience there.
Yeah. I just remember being a little kid sitting on the front steps of our house on 18th Street, four-family flat that I grew up. Mom's here, 90 years old. And I just heard Jack Buck on the radio. I thought, I think I might want to do that one of these days, And I got a chance to tell Jack once that he was my idol, and he's the reason I got into the business. So, but having him as an inspiration, and then getting to work with him, and you saw that picture that I showed up here where he signed that autograph to me. Nice working with you, John. Like, holy cow! Jack Buck actually said that to me.
I got to work with him at KMOX briefly, and that was that's always a great memory for me.
I got to play golf with him one time. He and I were late for a golf tournament, and I pull up my car, and he pulls up in his car, and they take my golf bag out, and they put it on a golf cart, and they put his on the same cart, and I go, oh my God, I'm going to play golf with Jack Buck? So we get out there, it was like 95 degrees that day, and just sufferable hot weather. And we got about to the 4th hole, and Jack said to me, John, if I keel over out here, go for my right back pocket. And I'm like, all right, Jack, whatever you say. I said, why? He said, I came over here straight from the track, and there's $4,000 back there.
So something you have done all these years is just amazing to me. You could have been at the ballpark till like 1:30 for an extra inning game, and then you're on the air the next morning at 5 o'clock at KC. How did you function that way?
I don't know. I think it's just adrenaline and the drive to succeed. I mean, that's all I can really, that's how I explain it away. My wife, my daughters.
Family does it to you when you're up here.
They know that Dad was going to do all 81 games if he can every season. It's my mountain to climb every year, the way I look at it. And they've scheduled their weddings around it, and births of a child, and everything so that I can make the games. So I thank my wife Ruth.
So you told me on the phone you have a story about somebody yelling at you from the stands before a game?
Yeah, well, the story goes, and the jobs have intertwined many times. My job at KC and my job as the PA announcer at Busch Stadium. But this one probably is the most best example of that. So in the mid-'80s, we had a concert with Eddie Money. Many of you know who Eddie Money is. He's had many rock hits over the years. And so this was at the Westport Playhouse, and he did 3 nights for us. And then one of the nights, at our KC birthday party concerts, we go on stage as the jocks, and we, sing happy birthday to the radio station, and we'd have cake and wave to the listeners and all that, and then they'd bring the artist out. Well, that night, we had a big sheet cake that night to sing happy birthday, and a buddy of mine was carrying it, and I said, when we get done singing happy birthday, I'm going to throw that cake in your face. And I don't think he believed me, and I did it. And so the icing went all over the stage and everything, and it was a big mess. So fast forward about 10 to 15 years, I'm on the field at Busch Stadium getting ready to do some field ceremonies and announce the anthem. And some guys going, "Hey, you! Hey!" And that happens from time to time down there. And, you know, I glanced over it, and I glanced again. That's Eddie Money. Because I'd met him before. I knew him, you know, from his, you know, his celebrity and his success. So I go over and he goes, "Hey, I'm the Money Man. Anybody sing the national anthem here tonight?" I said, "No, I don't think so. I know Ernie Hayes is going to play the organ, but I don't know if we have a singer." He said, "Well, I want to come in and sing." So I went to my boss. I said, "Marty, Eddie Money's here to sing the national anthem." And he said, "Where?" And I point over there, and he said, "Eddie Money. Are you sure that's Eddie Money?" I said, I swear that's Eddie Money. He said, "If it's not, this is your last game down here. You understand?" I said, "That's him." So I go over and I said, "Come on out here." And so we start talking before I announce him. And we start talking about Casey. And he said, "Oh, Casey was a great radio station for me. You guys played my music for, you know, from the beginning and all that. Love the radio station." I said, "Yeah, you did one of our concerts once out at Westport Playhouse. And we had a great time that night. And we had birthday cake. And I threw a cake in my buddy's face. And he stopped, he looked at me and went, 'You're the son of a bitch that threw that cake and icing all over the cake? I almost broke my neck on the stage that night.'" And I grabbed the microphone and I said, "Ladies and gentlemen, please stand. Here to sing the national anthem is Eddie Money." And I gave him the microphone and I took off.
Well, you've kind of already thanked your family. Anybody else you want to thank here tonight while we wrap it
the
up?
Hubbard Radio family that's here. John Kiowski, our general manager, Marty Link, our program director. They've allowed me to continue on at Casey. I've been there 47 plus years. My co-workers Learn and Favaz here, and then all my Cardinal family here, John Mossbacher and Tony Simakaitis, and all the people who direct me and lead me down there. I love them. I love working with everybody. Thank you all for your support. Thank you to the St. Louis Hall of Fame.
Our next Hall of Famer, new Hall of Famer, will forever be remembered by Cardinals fans for a particular shining moment in his athletic career.
In the air to left, well hit. Back is Craig. What a team. What a ride. The Cardinals are world champs in 2011.
Yeah, we could watch that over and over again, couldn't we? Not bad for a converted catcher who never threw a single pitch in high school or at Iona College. Jason Motte had 5 postseason saves for the Cardinals in 2011, led the National League with 42 that year, as our executive director told you earlier. In a perfect world, he would have gone on to spend the rest of his career closing for the Cardinals. But pro sports, as we know, are not perfect. And after Tommy John surgery cost him the 2013 season, he went on to pitch for the Cubs. The Rockies and the Braves. And Jason is one of those guys who has a commitment to giving back in life, as evidenced by his 2 charitable foundations and the annual Cornhole Challenge held each August that raises money to fight childhood cancer. The 9th annual event just concluding a few weeks ago. We can also now call him Coach Motte, as he continues to give back by coaching baseball for the young men at Christian Brothers High School in Memphis. Please enjoy reading Jason's bio in tonight's program. Our resident baseball historian, Ed Wheatley, will return to chat with Jason. Please welcome to the St. Louis Sports Hall of Fame, Jason Motte.
You guys are jealous that baseball's best town in America to be sitting up here for the World Series champion. How cool. It is. I mean, you man set the stage, so let's just go right to 2011. You came, took off, that finish run to the end, you know, then the playoffs against Philadelphia and Milwaukee, and then the World Series. You pitched in multiple games, 5 of them. But the key was Game 6. Everybody knows here what happened, but they remember you kept the 9th and 10th innings going. So we get Freeze's home run, and then the next night you close it off. Somehow you had to take the whole force of Yachty jumping on you. Yeah. So why don't you give us a little your memory of what 2011 was like?
So that season, you know, for a lot of y'all who remember, so we were about 10 and a half games back at the end of August. Wasn't doing really well. And another St. Louis Sports Hall of Famer, Chris Carpenter, a couple other guys, kind of brought us in, was like, listen, we're playing horrible baseball. Like, this is not Cardinal baseball. We need to step it up. We've got, you know, a month and a half left, and let's just see what happens.
Well, I think it was more than what's going to happen. I remember at the Nights of the Cauliflower Ear Dinner, remember that?
Yep. Yes, sir.
Adam got up and said, we're going to win this. Yeah. And then I won't repeat what he said, but he said, we're going to win it.
Fellas, that's what he said, I think.
Something like that.
Yeah, and, you know, honestly, from that point on, it was kind of a blur. Honestly, we kind of just kept our head down and just took it one game at a time. Went out there and did what we could do to win ball games. We were winning. The Braves and some other teams were losing, which was really good for us. And then it came down to the final game of the season down in Houston. Chris Carpenter threw an amazing game down there. We won. The Braves lost. And then, you know, we celebrated down there, but got to go to Philly, play there. Saw some really cool games down there. Went to Milwaukee, was able to beat them, and then got a chance to go to the World Series and play Texas. And, you know, like I said earlier, like I feel like it was just a big blur. I really didn't get a second to honestly like take it in, because when those moments happen, I feel like people tell you to enjoy it. You know, and I think one of the first times I enjoyed it was when I was walking down the ramp, Game 7. And there's videos of it. I kind of walked down the ramp and kind of remember like looking around at the stadium being like, this is kind of cool. You know, it kind of was like, all right, took my hat off, did my thing, went to jog in. One of the police officers had some words for me of like, go get him. He didn't say that, but he said some other choice words of what I should do out there. Went out there and, you know, next thing I know, fly balls hit Alan Craig, and I got to see, you know, Yachty's beautiful face, you know, coming out at me. I went to give him a big hug and forgot the 30 other people coming from this direction, and, you know, end up on the bottom of the dog pile. So it was a pretty cool time. Last thing about that is, so I was at the bottom of the dog pile. I'm like, you know, I got hit by everybody in my hand sideways. Everybody screaming. I'm like, Yachty. He's like, what's up, Poppy? I'm like, I think I just broke my thumb. He's like, it's okay. We got like 4 months. You'll be fine. I was like, okay, sweet, man.
Well, that's great. That's great. You know, we remember you as a sterling pitcher. You were born in Michigan. You grew up in New York. You went to Iona College in New York. But before you got to the mound at Busch Stadium, you have a little detour in your career there. You want to tell us about that?
Yeah, so I was a catcher my whole life. I was thinking family stuff and happened again.
Take your time, man. Yeah. Started as a catcher before a pitcher. Yeah.
So I was yep. So I was a catcher, you know, my whole life. Growing up, went to high school, college as a catcher. Got drafted as a catcher. Played a couple years in the minor leagues. And that same catcher that I went to give a big hug to was there, Yadier Molina. And I felt bad for him. He didn't have really another position he could play, so I figured I would be the one to try something else. You know, but like they said earlier, I'd never really pitched. You know, I think one of the only other times I pitched, my older brother's here, I pitched in the backyard against him when I was like 8 years old. He was 10 years older than I was, played baseball, so I always kind of wanted to be like him. And I would be in the backyard when I lived in Colorado. So he jokes around that the reason I was so good at pitching is because, you know, I'm a 8-year-old trying to strike out an 18-year-old. So, I had to be pretty decent at it. So, I had never really pitched before that. Went out there, and I guess my options were pitch or go home. And I was like, I don't really want to go home yet. I'll give it a whirl. And kind of went out there, started throwing a baseball, and really just gave it everything I had. And that's kind of how I did it out there. I hope that, the fans, I hope you all know that I did everything I could every single time out there. I had some really good times, had some really, really bad times. No, don't all. They were awful. They were bad. But
we remember the good. We remember the good.
Yes, and I remember both. Kind of. It's really weird how that works.
You see the pattern up here, with Justina and her Wimbledon thing. A little bling every time we come up, isn't there? Look at, his little finger there with a little.
I got it every now and then.
Yeah, keep
it in there.
Yeah, go for that. So, you talked about the fans. You hear it in here, the roar. All you do is say Cardinals, and boom, baseball, applause. What is it like? You played in Chicago, you played in Colorado, Atlanta, but what is it like to play in front of Major League Baseball's best fans?
I've had people ask me all the time, like, what was my favorite place to play? And my answer is, honestly, like, there's really not a bad place to play in the big leagues. My whole life, growing up, I was like, I always wanted to be a Major League Baseball player. Mm-hmm. I lived, like I said, all over the place, Florida, New York, everywhere. But, to be able to play here in St. Louis for these fans, and for me, it's, and we'll probably hit on this here in a second, it's the stuff that, the fans did for us on the field, cheering for us, showing up for the games. The fans know the games.
Right.
Some other places, they're there, cheering on, but, may not know the game as well as a lot of Cardinal fans, but what the Cardinal fans did for us off the field and the way they showed their support for us and our foundation off the field is what really, for me and my wife,
and that
means the world to us.
And I think that's something, you were a battler and a winner on the field and off the field. You and your wife, Caitlin, who was over there, you're battlers and looking for that win, Strikeout Cancer and your foundation. So why don't you give us a little bit of, how that came about and, because that is something very important.
So my wife's grandfather was diagnosed with stage 4 lung cancer about 2 months before our wedding back in 2010, and he was getting treatment in Memphis. See, so what some of y'all don't know is, some of you guys have seen me pitch and do all that, but I'm big teddy bear, and a lot of people don't know it. So, So, I'm gonna try to get through this.
You'll get it.
But we had a question of how can we help? How can we help people the way that people helped my wife's grandfather going through this? And at the time, there was a place in Memphis, and they needed blankets. And we're like, we can do blankets, we can do a couple events. So we started doing events in Memphis. Wanted to do an event here in St. Louis and didn't really know what to do. This is about the first time I've been dressed up in about 4 years. So I'm no good at golf. So we came up with our cornhole event,
right.
And just wanted to do it and have another way to raise money and awareness for people battling because cancer has affected so many people probably in this room. I know it's affected my wife's family and a lot of others so many different ways. So we just wanted to help out in any way we can, and that led to events in Memphis, Chicago, different minor league ballparks, high schools, and stuff like that. And through the efforts of people wanting to help give back, we've been able to raise over $2 million for cancer research and stuff like that. And that's what I was talking about earlier.
Yeah, and that's where you're a winner on the field, you're a winner off the field, your foundation, your coaching young men down there at CBC. That's why we wanted you in the Hall of Fame. Let's give a big hand, Jason Motte.
While Jason is up here, we'd like to also recognize the St. Louis Cardinals as a champion sponsor for tonight. Cardinals representative Larry State is here to founding member, is also here to present the Cardinals representative with their award plaque.
It's grip and grin time, everybody. There we go.
Congratulations again, you man and Jason, and thanks to the Cardinals for being one of our champion sponsors tonight.
The Hall does 2 enshrinements each year. We are close to finalizing what will be a really great class of honorees for our next event that will be held at Gateway Classic Cars in O'Fallon, Illinois on February the 12th. So mark that on your calendars and stay in touch with our social media posts as we release names of the honorees and ticket information in the coming weeks. And our Hall of Fame doesn't survive without the donations of time and effort and goods and services from our volunteers and sponsors. There they are. Please give them a round of applause, if you would. Our next honoree tonight has led the effort to give the St. Louis professional sports menu a whole new feel. As we enjoy the first season of St. Louis City SC, we take you back in time 4 years ago when we were just warming up to the idea that an MLS team would play in the Lou.
This ownership group and all of the other members of our team have truly been honored to lead the charge, and I'm happy to say we absolutely did it.
1 year ago, we were not even on the radar screen for MLS. The support in this city from all of its citizens and businesses has been fabulous.
Our goal was the same from day one. Bring MLS to America's first soccer capital.
The game of soccer brings people together in such a unique way. It is going to do just incredible things for St. Louis and downtown St. Louis.
And be part of our region's renaissance.
It's something more than just soccer. It's about something that's transformational for downtown St. Louis.
Great things are happening here in St. Louis.
There's already been $8 billion committed to downtown.
Our fans and our corporate community stepped up, and MLS heard what was happening in St. Louis loud and clear.
We want to turn downtown West into another great destination.
This city is on the verge of something huge.
The vision of a better downtown St. Louis.
There's still a lot of work to be done, but we're all rolling up our sleeves and we're getting it done.
And today, the opportunity to bring Major League Soccer to the Major League Soccer City becomes a reality.
We have the stadium plan, we have the ownership group, and more importantly, we have the fan support. This city demonstrated the support and spirit that makes St. Louis unique.
For the region, for the city, for the fans.
We are in the game to get the game.
We wanted MLS for the Lou. And we got it.
Wow, did we get it? And how? Carolyn Kindle and the St. Louis City SC Ownership Group have given us something that we might have felt was possible in this city, but couldn't have imagined it being as great as it's been. Not only have they built a beautiful soccer facility in downtown West, but they filled it with soccer professionals at every level that have gotten off to a start in MLS that is unprecedented and totally captivating. You probably knew that what the team has done on the pitch was not expected by any of the usual experts. Bradley Carnell's side, in its very first season, is currently atop the Western Conference standings and headed for a playoff berth. As CEO and by leading the St. Louis MLS charge, Carolyn has already achieved Hall of Fame credentials, but she gives back, like some of our other honorees tonight, to the community in many other ways. As president of the Enterprise Holdings Foundation, the charitable arm of Enterprise Holdings, she's also a board member of Greater St. Louis Incorporated, the St. Louis Sports Commission, SSM Health, Regional Business Council, and the St. Louis Police Foundation. Randy Carricker's back for this interview. Please welcome to the St. Louis Sports Hall of Fame with your applause, Carolyn Kindle.
Congratulations, first of all, on all those things that Tom mentioned, the impact that the franchise is having on the pitch, but then I know just as important to you, what is happening for St. Louis off the pitch?
So many great things. So first of all, thank you very much for electing me into the St. Louis Sports Hall of Fame. I'm not sure Carolyn Kindle and Sports Hall of Fame would have ever gone together 5 years ago, but I'm very honored. I think one of the things that I'm very proud about is what our team have done in the community. So it starts with City Futures, our program where we're trying to get kids from all over the region at least interested in soccer or give them the ability to have exposure to soccer. We have our City Moves program, which is where we're really trying to reach out to different groups and communities throughout the entire region to see what do they want to have in a fan experience and coming down to City Park. But I think just overall, City Park in general is amazing. You know, you have this idea in your head about how you want to program it, and you say you want every fan to have their own unique experience. And I think what we're seeing is that's exactly what people do. So whether you're a fan or not, a foodie or not, music or not, I keep hearing people come up to me and they're like, that is just one huge party.
Yeah, it's great. Now, you mentioned 5 years ago and being in this Hall of Fame, but if I would have told you 10 years ago that you and your family would own a pro sports franchise, you would have said, no chance, right? You've said that before. What changed?
Uncle Andy. Uncle Andy said, we're never going to get into professional sports, children. And then all of a sudden he comes to me and he's like, what do you think about soccer? I'm like, I hear it's a great thing. Everybody in St. Louis, all excited about it. And he said, great, meet me down in the lobby in a half an hour. We're going to talk to Jim Kavanaugh at Worldwide Technology. And I remember looking at Mom and I go, oh no, what did I just do? So the truth of the matter is, no, Uncle Andy. But all kidding aside, when you really look at the sport of soccer and how international it is and how it can bring communities together and the deep fandom that you have for your teams, it's exactly what this region needed. And I said it in August of 2019, and I'll say it now. My goal with my amazing team is to put St. Louis back on the international map, find a way to elevate this community, bring people together, and soccer is an incredible way to do that.
There is nothing more galvanizing, and we've seen it throughout the years with all the sports that we've had, than winning sports teams. Nothing brings people together more than winning sports teams. But I think beyond the people, you learned as you got into this that it kind of galvanized the corporate community too. How's that feel to you to have such incredible corporate and community support?
Well, first of all, they believed in us, right? We didn't even have a stadium, we didn't have a team, we didn't have a plan, and we had to go out and sell, trust me, we're gonna be good. I think we're actually pretty fabulous and fantastic right now. But it just goes to show you how this region will come out and support you no matter what. So whether it was, we need you to share a social handle, we need you to buy a patch, everybody has done everything. We have broken every record, ticket deposits, merchandise, I could go on and on and on. But that's how much this region believed in what we were doing, and so I am eternally grateful because none of this would have happened if it wasn't for everybody in this region, and certainly the corporate support as well.
We saw in the video that this is the first majority female-owned franchise in MLS. A couple of things. Number one, how much pride do you take in that? Yes, absolutely. How much pride do you take in that? in having the female ownership that you have?
Oh, yeah. So, there was so much clapping, I couldn't hear your question. No, I mean, I think one of the best things is we're really showing people of any community, you just have to follow your passion. And I can't say that 5 years ago I was passionate about soccer, but I'm passionate about making St. Louis a better place. And so I've learned a lot, had a lot of support. But I think the best part about it is what we're sending a message is it doesn't matter what you do. If you're passionate about it and you care about it, then you have to pursue your dreams. And I'm gonna pat our back a little bit. I mean, we have one of the best female academy coaches in the nation. We have one of, I think, 2 assistant groundskeepers who's a female. So I think that we've done an amazing job attracting incredible talent as well, because what we're saying is it doesn't matter who you are, where you come from. If you work hard, you want to be part of a good team, then we want to meet you.
And I know young women that have watched what has unfolded with SC, young women that feel empowered because of watching what you and your partners have done. What does that mean to you, that you do empower young ladies?
I think it just makes me proud of all of them. The fact that they're even thinking outside of the box, and the fact that they're taking the time to understand what we've done, how hard we've worked, ask great questions. I mean, I have 10-year-olds literally asking me questions at 25 I didn't ask. And even better, they're fans. They're fans of everything we're trying to do. And I love the self-confidence they have. I love the passion. I love their drive to succeed. And it doesn't matter who you are. That's the secret to success, in my opinion. So I'm so proud of anybody that's asking me those questions.
Yeah. Carolyn's director of sport, Lutz Pfannenstiel, came on our show on 101 ESPN before the season started and said, be patient, we aren't going to be great soon. We're going to be a team that slowly ascends. I heard you're rather competitive and you didn't necessarily agree with that assessment. Is this true?
Maybe. No, truthfully, I really should write a thank you note to those sports reporters that said we were going to be 13th and 14th. Because if you ever needed a rally cry and the biggest motivational thing ever, tell us we're going to be dead last.
And now they're in first in the Western Conference of MLS. So here you are. First year playing, obviously fourth year. You guys have been hard at it for a long time. But here you are, grew up in St. Louis, a member of the St. Louis community, very proud of the St. Louis community. And here you and your team are in the St. Louis Sports Hall of Fame. How cool is that?
It's amazing. But obviously I have to do my thank yous, which are all extremely heartfelt. First and foremost, we have an amazing ownership group. But I'm very partial to my entire family that's here with me tonight. Mom and I have therapy about every day around 5 o'clock on my ride home. The family text messages match day have gotten a little snarky. I'm not going to point the finger, but it's not anybody in this room. But they're the first people to hug me, high-five me, and pick me up. I have my professional team over here. Obviously, we've been able to recruit, in my opinion, the greatest talent from all over the globe. We continue to have a world-class product, both on and off the pitch. And I'm also eternally grateful for everybody in this region. Again, every time we asked for something, we got it 10 times over. And so if you come to City Park, hopefully you've been there, I hope everybody pats themselves on the back because they were part of making this happen. I was just able to stand there and take credit for all the hard work that everybody else did.
It is an honor for me to welcome Carolyn Kindle and St. Louis City SC into the St. Louis Sports Hall of Fame. Congratulations.
Well, folks, the sport of chess almost certainly wouldn't have someone going into our Hall of Fame tonight if it weren't for this man being perhaps the world's greatest proponent of the game. So much so that a few years ago, Rex Sinquefield was featured on a segment of HBO's Real Sports program.
Armed with incalculable wealth, relentless drive, and a vision to make his favorite game into America's too.
How much money have you sunk into this project, would you guess?
Several millions.
Several millions. Is that 10?
You're getting warm.
30? Should we just go up to $50 million?
Yeah, let's stop right about there.
Sinquefield launched his revolution here in the heart of the country, his hometown of St. Louis, Missouri. He's turned a city known for beer and baseball into the unlikely mecca of chess.
And you talk about your rags to riches story. At age 7, Mr. Sinquefield and his brother were moved to the St. Vincent Home for Children in St. Louis after the untimely passing of their father. He went on to graduate from St. Louis U and earned an MBA from the University of Chicago. Rex and Dr. Gene Sinquefield worked together in building the investment firm Dimensional Fund Advisors into a multi-billion-dollar company. Please read about the rest of their professional life in tonight's program. So while the recent Netflix blockbuster Queen's Gambit may have piqued the interest of the world in the game of chess, the Chess Club and Scholastic Center of St. Louis, the World Chess Hall of Fame, and the passion of Rex Sinquefield has made St. Louis the center of the chess universe. Ed Wheatley is back to conduct Mr. Sinquefield's interview. Please welcome to the St. Louis Sports Hall of Fame, Mr. Rex Sinquefield.
It's an honor to be up here on the stage to talk about chess. And you know, I'm sure there are a few people, chess, sport, they think of it a game. It is a sport. We'll talk about, the International Olympics Committee recognizes it. 100 and some odd countries recognize it as a sport. We live, in the city that has the most Grand Masters in America?
In the world.
In the world. All these firsts you learn here. We saw Kindle as the first female owner of a soccer team. St. Louis had the first female owner of Major League Baseball, the first female owner of an NFL team. And we've got all these heroes that we're going to talk about. But chess, what is it that really makes it a sport? You know what it takes. It's not just the game you first pick up. What these athletes, they are athletes when they're playing chess.
They're athletes. They work very hard to prepare. They study relentlessly, and they are viciously competitive. It is a very harsh sport.
And, it is something that has made St. Louis proud. We've had championships from our professional teams, but our city has been viewed as the world capital of bowling and professional wrestling. We were the American hub of tennis, as we talked about with Justina. We're the North American capital of soccer, for sure. I don't care if you Google Kansas City and they pop up. St. Louis is the American capital of soccer. But through your initiatives, we are known as one of the top chess cities in the world. And the United States Congress, they declared St. Louis the chess capital of the country. How'd that come about?
Well, people say governments never do anything right. This is one exception. They did it because we've gotten a lot of support from leaders all over the country, in fact, all over the world. When we host our major events, which we do frequently, they are broadcast all over the world. We have listening actively members from at least 200 countries on a regular basis. I remember one of the first times we held one of our first international tournaments about 12, 13 years ago. I walked down in the studio among the radio studios, and one guy said, "We just got Mozambique." And that was like the 200th country that has signed on to our broadcast. So we're getting unbelievably worldwide attention.
So not only worldwide attention, from the media and all that, why don't you just real quick give everybody in this room, if they're not familiar, and you should be familiar, with what's over there in the Central West End on both sides of the street.
Okay, well, there's the St. Louis Chess Club, and our manager, Joy Bray, is here. She's what makes it work. And we have two of our outstanding grandmasters here, Grandmaster Lanier Dominguez, a defector from Cuba, Grandmaster Yasser Sirawan. Yasser was 4 times United States champion and twice played for the World Championship. And we'll have many others. We had another St. Louisan, Grandmaster Fabiano Caruana, who is not here, play for the World Chess Championship in London in 2018. And we have a lot of power like that lined up behind him. And we're getting more Grandmasters every day. I'm not worried about somebody outnumbering us in participation of great leaders in chess. And across the street from the chess club, we have the World Hall of Fame, which it is a fabulous museum. It's a source of tremendous exhibits. Like right now, we're doing an exhibit on one of St. Louis's own and the greatest poet of the English language, T.S. Eliot, a man who was born and raised 2.5 blocks from the St. Louis Chess Club. And so that's the kind of stuff we do. And we have events and exhibits like that all the time at the Hall of Fame. And about 12, 13 months ago, we started and we finally ended with the exhibit on the Fischer-Spassky match of 1972. We thought it was kind of low-key. We hadn't publicized it yet. And Joy Bray, the manager of our club, gets a phone call. And the caller says, "Hi, I'm from France. My name is Boris Spassky Jr." And he said, "My father wants to loan memorabilia to your World Chess Hall of Fame for your exhibit." So we thought it wasn't known. It was known by the best in the world.
That is, it's made a mark for St. Louis. But you know, St. Louis has been known in these things, as I talked about, these leadership capitals of sports. And, you know, some of the sports' most prominent trophies have been named after and promoted by St. Louisans. You know, we had the Davis Cup in tennis, the Herman Cup given to the top female and male soccer college players. And then we had the Walker Cup in golf. And now we have the Sinquefield Cup in chess. You might want to tell everybody what that competition is and what it all comes to be.
Well, it's the top international tournament in the world. And when we hold it, the 10 or 12 participants are the 10 or 12 best players in the world. There's no question about it. Now, the reason it got that name is because the staff at the chess club didn't listen very well. I said, "We're going to have a new cup, and I don't care what you call it, but it's got to have the name St. Louis in it." So when I came back to them, I said, "What'd you decide?" They said, "Yeah, it's the Sinquefield Cup." I said, "That's not St. Louis." They said, "That's it. We've decided." Well, c'est la vie, you know.
Well, to me, it's St. Louis. It happens all here in St. Louis. And when's the next match?
In about 6 or 7 days, we're going to be starting the United States Chess Championships and the Women's Chess Championship. And I should add that we really promote and teach children in St. Louis. Everybody here is talking about their outreach. We're in over 100 schools in the St. Louis area on an everyday basis. And so we have tens of thousands of children getting education in chess for all of its cognitive benefits and all of its benefits toward students, helping them in school. It's a wonderful thing, and I'm proud of what our club does.
Truly an international sport. It's all here out of St. Louis because of this man. Let's induct him into the Hall of Fame and give him a round of applause.
Piece of land in Madison, Illinois, with 8-foot weeds all over it, and trying to turn it into a world-class motorsports facility. That's the task that Curtis Francois undertook with his dream in 2012. So it's understandable that he was pretty amped up, maybe excited about NASCAR coming to Worldwide Technology Raceway in this Fox 2 story from a couple of years ago.
I'm just proud for St. Louis that we were able to show ourselves on the national stage and ultimately win a Cup Series race coming to Worldwide Technology Raceway.
IndyCar, NHRA, now the NASCAR Cup Series on the first weekend of June.
I just can't wait to see those Cup cars charging into Turn 1 for the first time.
Here they come. Worldwide Technology Raceway owner and president Curtis Francois says it was leadership who helped bring the Enjoy Illinois 300.
The political leaders that have been with me from the very beginning, doing exactly what they said they would do. Greater St. Louis Inc. doing exactly what they said they would do as far as helping.
It's not as big as the Indy 500, but Francois says races like the Viverito 500 showed the region isn't far behind.
And we showed the IndyCar world that we could do it as well as anybody in the country. And our race, other than the Indianapolis 500 with 300,000 people, we are the largest oval in the country hosting an IndyCar event.
And tickets are going fast.
And as you know, we've already had 2 NASCAR Cup races here with fans packing the stands to see them. IndyCar has just had a great race a few weeks ago, and the NHRA Midwest Nationals will bring the dragsters to town at the end of this month. What the casual fan might not know is that Worldwide Technology Raceway is the only facility in the country to host a premier event staged by all 3 of those motorsports sanctioning bodies. But like the others honored before him tonight, Curtis is actively giving back to the community in other ways. He has engaged the community near the track by providing support for the Jackie Joyner Kersey Community Center in East St. Louis. That partnership focuses on STEM curriculum and has included visits to the center by guest speakers, race cars, and other interactive activities. His philanthropic and community enhancement efforts have earned him the Comcast Community Champion Award, Missouri Athletic Club Jack Buck Award, and the 2018 Innovator Award from Explore St. Louis. NASCAR has also honored Curtis with the Drive for Diversity Award, which showcases commitment to opening the world of motorsports to everyone, regardless of race. Please read more in our Hall of Famer Steve Porter's bio of Curtis in tonight's program. It'll be my pleasure to conduct the interview. Now, please welcome to the St. Louis Sports Hall of Fame, with your applause, Curtis Francois. So, Mr. Francois, what were you thinking taking on that project in 2012?
But I can tell you this, I was thinking about St. Louis. And my background in racing allowed me to travel the country, and I recognized and had seen what racetracks can do for a community. It's another major league sport that we didn't have. So when the track closed, I didn't rush to get involved. I simply threw my name in the hat that if there was not someone else that was going to do this, please give me a call, because the track was only 13 years old at the time, and I recognized that there was an opportunity to make a difference for our community, and I guess I made the right decision.
So you were a pro driver and in real estate, and you were a business builder, so you were the right guy for this project.
Yeah, I think from the beginning I realized that somehow or another I had this unique skill set. My development company's over in Illinois, so I knew most of the players there. And was able really to work the phones and make sure that I had the community support on the Metro East side from the political side. But I also understood that there had to be a good reason why that racetrack failed, and one of them was a real estate problem. And so I think you look at what was the issue, try to figure out the path forward, solve for the issues that can be changed. And ultimately I felt like that I was in the right place at the right time to do something special.
You touched on in the video piece, but there's a lot of people that you have to thank to get you where this project is now.
Yeah, I think, I'm not an athlete in the way that, in the traditional sense, but I'm very honored to be, enshrined with so many other great inductees. That's just amazing. Very much of what we've done has been a collaborative effort. And I look over the years. It started from the beginning with my family that comes out and was helping me paint the walls, and great friends that stepped up and encouraged her, and then ultimately so many friends that just said, hey, how can I help? Because I think the mission became infectious as I was able to explain that there was something different going on here. I initially thought that, this racetrack shouldn't be closed. Let's figure out something. That led very soon to realizing that I was put in that position for a really good reason, and I felt like that was to make a difference in the Metro East community. And so I started taking it day by day just to see how things would come and how it would work out. And as I explained that mission, there's just an entire army of folks that have come alongside us to make this all happen. So for me, I could go on, but I think you got to look at the pivotal points along the way is when NASCAR said, hey, we'd like to bring a truck race to St. Louis. And then we found a sponsor, local business, to do that. The NHRA comes back to town, and that was huge for us. But I think, we really changed things dramatically. And when IndyCar comes to town, the Viverito family steps up, becomes the sponsor. We got on the map. And then along comes my good friend Dave Stewart with Worldwide Technology and the Worldwide Technology Group, and that just supercharged what we were doing. And then it leads to the unbelievable support that we've seen as St. Louis is coming together through Greater St. Louis, Inc. We did something that was very special. Most people don't know this. No offense to our media, but we kept it from you. We had NASCAR in town. And we put together a day of meetings with NASCAR to showcase St. Louis. And to say that it was something that I don't ever think I've ever seen and probably never will again. All of the sports teams were represented. All the major businesses were represented. Our elected officials were represented. Most of the development agencies were represented, all coming together to showcase St. Louis and that to convince the France family who was here that NASCAR was a good place for them to come. So many people to thank, and just wanted to mention a few.
That's great. And, I've heard some numbers that are pretty staggering about the financial impact of NASCAR coming to town. Can you shed some light on that?
Yeah, I sure can. I mean, that is something that, again, I had a sense of it from traveling the country and seeing what happens at these major events, how that sports can be used as a foundational piece of community growth, and recognizing in an area that really needs it in the Metro East that we had an opportunity. So we reached out to the Maryville Center, Rawlings Business Center there, and asked for an economic impact study, and they came back at $60 million a year for this cup race, and I was shocked. But that right then and there, I knew that we could leverage that into making generational change. Transformational change is so important. And now with the momentum that we're seeing led by Greater St. Louis and many of the other sports teams and development agencies, it's just amazing to feel what's happening here, and just to be a part of it is just a blessing for me and for my family.
As we wrap it up, expound on that a little bit. What do you see coming the next 10 years or so?
Well, what's great is, we're on the map. I think without a doubt, we are the track to watch right now, and I say that humbly, but no doubt that we're doing something different. We've come from a place that no one would have ever expected. NASCAR typically does not ever go back to a racetrack that's been closed. They're back, and we've had 2 straight sellouts. And so it's getting the attention of everyone in NASCAR. But I think the long term, as you look at it, is to build a racetrack that certainly survives well past my lifetime and continues to give back into the community and strengthen the Metro East. I really feel like so goes the Metro East, East St. Louis, Madison, Fairmont, Granite City, goes the plight of St. Louis as well. They're hand in hand. And so we're going to do everything we can do to be the shining light on the hill in the Metro East. We continue to give back and build the relationships, help with leadership there as well. And we really feel like in the next decade that we're going to see the fruits of the labor that we laid for the last decade.
Well, it's an amazing story. Let's hear it for our new Hall of Famer, Curtis Francois. I mentioned to a friend recently that we would be inducting David Lee into the St. Louis Sports Hall of Fame. Well, my friend said, well, that's cool, but why would you put this guy into the St. Louis Sports Hall of Fame? And I said, no. David Lee, not David Lee Roth. Come on. And by the way, ladies, Mr. Roth doesn't look quite like that anymore. I had to show that. Now you won't get it out of your head the rest of the night. And Mr. Roth certainly doesn't have the credentials to be in our Hall of Fame that David Lee does. A 6'9" high school McDonald's All-American at Chaminade, a star on the Florida Gators 2005 SEC championship team, a 12-year career in the NBA, including stops with the Knicks, Mavericks, Celtics, Warriors, and Spurs. His 2015 Warriors winning the NBA championship. That's a great NBA run. And not many NBA players who scored more than one basket can say they had a game in which they didn't miss a shot.
David Lee against Sean Williams. Lee, one of the best passing bigs, also one of the better rebounders in the NBA. He hits the jump hook, the 10-year vet and former Florida Gator. A 13-7 lead for Miami, 11 straight points for the Heat until that David Lee lay-in. Thompson, good drive. David Lee with the score and the foul, all set up by the dribble penetration of Klay Thompson.
He keeps his dribble, gets around D-Wade, and saw Lee inside.
Bogut, nice pass, and that's what we were talking about, the bigs that can pass and finish. Bogut setting up David Lee. Lee now with 11 points. Warriors trying to play with great pace. Great pass. That time it's Thompson that set up David Lee with a point-blank score and the foul on Sean Williams.
And you can see what Coach Bolster was talking about, how the Heat's lack of execution.
Okay, it was a preseason game, but how many guys can go 11 for 11 from the field with 24 points in any NBA game? I don't care when it's played. Please enjoy Ron Jacober's bio of David in tonight's program. Randy Carricker's back for the interview. Now please welcome to the St. Louis Sports Hall of Fame, David Lee.
Congratulations. Yeah, we want to just keep that under the table. That was you know what though? There were defenders. How many people in this room could just go into a gym and not miss a shot? Doesn't matter.
I'll agree with you on that one.
Hey, so you went to middle school at Burroughs and you go to high school at Chaminade. When did it strike you, hey, I'm really good at this?
You know, I was the starting point guard on our junior varsity team. Junior varsity coach Massa is here tonight. And then, a lot of Massa fans in the house. And grew between my freshman and sophomore year, grew something 4 or 5 inches and came back as our starting center my sophomore year on the varsity. So that was the big jump, and I think the time where I got noticed nationally, and the rest is history, I guess.
Part of that history includes winning the slam dunk competition at the 2001 McDonald's All-American game. Tell us about that experience.
All right, so good story. So I'm roommates with a guy, Eddie Curry. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Eddie Curry. So he is, as an 8th grader I played against him, he's 6'11", 320 pounds as an 8th grader. When I was his teammate in New York with the Knicks, he was 6'11", 360 pounds. So he says, we're roommates of the game, and he says, hey, this is going to be on ESPN. Let's do the dunk contest. He said, I'm going to try to drop step dunk and break the backboard 3 times in a row. I said, now this I got to see. But he goes, I'm only doing it if you do it with me. I said, perfect, let's do it. So they get the ESPN thing, everybody's getting ready, and Eddie goes, hey man, my calf hurts, I'm not going to do it. And I said, perfect, no problem, we're in this together. I said to the ESPN people, I said, hey, Eddie's out, I'm out. They said, sorry, we already have your name up first. And I had never been in a dunk contest in my entire life. And I go out there. So I had a strategy. So we're in a packed gym, a packed high school gym, and crowds are going crazy, and it's high school kids. And my roommate later in college, James White, is my roommate. He's one of the best dunkers of all time. The guy can jump from the free throw line, dunk with 2 hands, do all this crazy stuff. So I have a strategy. We're in layup lines getting warmed up, and I pretend like I can't dunk. And so I go up the first time, I lay the ball in, I fall on my back. So everybody in the crowd, oh, the white guy's trying to be in the dunk contest. And they're all making fun of me. So I said, okay. So then the first dunk, I come out and I do it between the legs from the corner. From that point, I probably shouldn't have won the dunk contest, but because of the crowd reaction, I kind of tricked everybody into winning it. So I'll take the trophy on that one.
Congratulations. And then you move on to the University of Florida, and if you're not aware of it, the University of Florida basketball program hasn't always been great. You went to a program that wasn't great. You kind of helped lay the groundwork, right?
So yeah, so I made visits to Duke, North Carolina, Kentucky, all the ones that were kind of the pedigree schools. And looking back for right or wrong reasons, I decided Florida, I wanted to be a part of something that had never been done. You go to Duke and you win a championship, they say, oh, this is the 18th time we've won the ACC title. And Florida was just coming off a Final Four loss to Michigan State, but they had a really cool program building. Billy Donovan was the coach, and he came up here and recruited me and really liked him. So I made the decision to go there and kind of trailblaze a little bit. Also, leaving the Midwest wasn't easy. Mizzou was building a program, SLU was building a program, Illinois. So it was a big decision, Kansas. So it was a big decision for me, but I guess, things worked out in the end and had a great college career.
And you wound up winning a national championship with the Gators. And I did
not. Just like that was not a regular season game, it was a preseason game. I was graduated and did not win until I was in the pros.
So that's unfortunate. But you did lay the groundwork.
Bringing up tough memories tonight, guys.
Yeah, close though.
He was 1 year off, but I did start the fire that then.
Exactly.
There we go.
Yeah.
There we go.
And
you make Hall of Fames for starting the fire.
And you're probably thinking, okay, I get drafted by the Knicks, and we were able to ascend in college, and I'll just go to the Knicks and we'll ascend and we'll wind up being good. Probably what you're thinking, right, when you start your career?
No question. So I was the 30th pick in the draft. And in fact, a guy that was in the same position as me, Channing Frye, was picked 7th. So I really had no chance of playing. And went there and my first year just really put my head down and said, I'm going to work hard. I'm going to do everything I can do to try to keep getting better. And I credit St. Louis. I'm bringing it back to St. Louis now. I really think there's something about being from the Midwest, being from St. Louis. A lot of players before me, I kind of looked up to Larry Hughes, who was the guy before me that made it. And I think that attitude of finding a way really came through, and I was able to earn myself some playing time. And then by my 3rd year, I was the captain of the team and made a big difference in New York.
And then you move on, and you ultimately wind up winning your championship with Golden State. So you were with that young team that eventually became a dynasty.
So I signed my deal with Golden State. I was actually at J-Bucks in St. Louis, which, good memories there. J-Bucks in St. Louis, and they say the next morning, hey, you've signed your deal with Golden State. You need to do your interviews. And I went up on Lindbergh, they have that broadcast studio, and did the interviews. And the Golden State media says, why would you ever come to Golden State? This is the worst franchise. They haven't made the playoffs in 13 years. And we were able to go. The only 2 players 2 years later from that whole entire team organization were myself and Steph Curry. 5 years later, we were able to win a championship, and it was a pretty special experience.
Now, Frank Cusimano told me to ask you this question, that you were in the NBA Finals, you're playing at the highest level. He wanted me to ask you to compare that to playing Chaminade and De Smet, those games.
Wait. So you're telling me Frank Cusimano
he planted this
found a way to weave De Smet into this conversation?
He always does. He always does.
You got to be kidding me on that. I told Frank earlier tonight, I said, the NBA is an incredible entertainment vessel. It's a great team sport and a great entertainment thing. But really, high school and college sports are the epitome of those real rivalries. And some of the rivalries we had when I was in high school against CBC and against De Smet, and then in college against Kentucky and other schools like that. that was like you look at the guys on the other team and you don't know if you like the guys or not. You're just like, well, if they play for Kentucky, I despise them. So it's kind of that feeling, but looking back on it, those were really special times.
It's interesting. We can look at a great college career and a 13-year NBA career and have a conversation, and St. Louis continues to be woven throughout your life, even when you were not in St. Louis. So how much does this mean to be in your hometown St. Louis Sports Hall of Fame?
It means a lot because I think where you come from has a huge bearing. I have a 2-year-old. Me and my wife Caroline have a 2-year-old and a 10-month-old now, and you start to put in those principles, and I really believe where you come from has a huge part of that, and the people that you surround yourself with. So I want to, if I can say really quick, I have a lot of people that know Carolyn's my cousin, so we got the whole extended family here. My beautiful wife Caroline, who just had a great run of her own at the U.S. Open, so proud to have you taking your time. And then we have 2 sets of things that were really big in my career were Chaminade. Obviously, we have a big set of coaches and administrators and everybody from Chaminade. And then the St. Louis Eagles, who are now the Brad Beal Elite, were a huge part of what I did and kind of put me from a local to a national stage. And that, my whole goal is that the little thing that I did in St. Louis with basketball, like Larry Hughes was for me, helped to make it a little bit easier for guys like Brad Beal and Jason Tatum to get noticed. And now when you hear, wow, there's a great basketball player coming out of St. Louis, people don't say like, oh, that's surprising. People say, yeah, I've heard there's been a lot of great players out of St. Louis. And I think that's everyone's goal, is to just raise that level up a little bit more. So I'm really proud of that.
Congratulations. It's my honor to welcome David Lee into the St. Louis Sports Hall of Fame.
I could go on, but upon Frank Viverito's retirement as head of the St. Louis Sports Commission last year, Frank's friend Mike Bush and our friends at KSDK put together a piece that says it all.
So it looks like I need to sign this.
For Frank Viverito, leadership has always been about relationships.
And it'll go in the packet.
Yes.
Okay.
Frank Viverito has been a treasure to the city.
When I think of Frank, it's always in a great light. His smile is always, it always lights up a room.
Do we have a ticket sales update?
As president of the Sports Commission, it's been his job to attract, create, and manage sporting events.
So the responses are coming in.
Which was a whole new frontier in the St. Louis area when he was hired in 1995.
It was an interesting time. It was the early years of the Sports Commission. And so we were really about raising money. So Frank, who had this wonderful personality, could talk to anybody, a great attention for detail, all of a sudden had to turn into a salesman. So Frank and I had some great days together, as I taught him to be a salesman and he taught me to be a nicer person.
Bronze, silver, gold, zero.
During his tenure, St. Louis has hosted dozens of high-profile events, including the NCAA Men's and Women's Final Four.
And Connecticut takes advantage in the person of Renee Montgomery at the other end.
12 NCAA Wrestling Championships, the U.S. Figure Skating Championships, the PGA Championship, and the U.S. Olympic Gymnastics Trials.
Being able to put a team together that can go in and make the pitches, and then we come out victorious, and that's because of Frank's leadership and the team.
He's not the front person on everything, but his personal stamp of goodwill and good actions is on so many things in this town. I mean, if we sat here and made a list of all of the things over these many years that he's brought to St. Louis and helped in this community, I think it would blow people away.
It was good. The travel was effective, and
perhaps his greatest legacy will be the Musial Awards.
It's the Musial Awards, presented by Maryville University.
It was his vision that turned a small annual dinner honoring sportsmanship into a nationally televised broadcast that creates ripples across the country. We're celebrating those who set an example of sportsmanship as it shines a light on the very best of humanity through athletics.
And they're going to change the world. So thank you all for being here tonight.
So in many ways, his legacy is going to be played out really for the rest of this century in the lives of 5 and 10 and 15 and 20 and 25-year-olds who are going to go on and do amazing things. And I can't think of a better legacy than that.
Yes, a pretty legacy. What no more needs to be said, really. Ron Jacober has a great bio of Frank in tonight's program, and we'll do the interview. Now please welcome to the St. Louis Sports Hall of Fame, Frank Viverito.
I feel like we're back on sports on a Sunday morning at KLX. I don't know how many times we talked over the years, but we go back 40 years, I think. Yeah, probably so. You know, I've been covering sports in St. Louis for almost a half a century. And this is such a good, feel-good night that we just simply don't get enough in this town. You know, you pick up the newspaper in your driveway in the morning, you watch news on all the news stations are in town, and all you hear is bad stuff, negative stuff. This is such a positive night, isn't it?
To me, it is.
You've retired. Has Patty suggested you get a job as a greeter at Walmart?
How did you know that's what I was doing?
How's retirement going?
Retirement is wonderful. I have a new title with the Sports Commission. I'm the Chief Advisory Officer.
Which means what?
Which means I get to work one day a week and I have a nifty business card.
Very good.
And I love to help my successor, Mark Schreiber. He's been doing a terrific job, and I love the relationship that we've had for decades.
How did a guy from New York wind up here?
Well, I have to tell you, in 1982, I was what you call a trailing spouse. We came to St. Louis for my wife Patty's job. We're going to stay just as long as she has that job. And she's now going into her 42nd year working with the Missouri Valley Conference. So I guess we're putting down roots.
So that's why you wound up in UMSL, didn't you?
My first job was at UMSL, and I was the sports information director. And the first guy I covered was their star point guard. His name was Frank Husamano.
You had to say that, didn't you?
Well, he took a couple of jabs so far tonight, so I had to stick up for the guy.
Frank, you ever get tired of hearing that St. Louis is a great baseball town?
I always get tired of that. And not only is St. Louis a great sports town, but for my money, St. Louis has the deepest and richest history of any city in the United States.
Now, baseball, of course, is the big dog on the porch. We all know that. But there's so much more that goes on here that I don't know that a lot of people realize it or understand it or appreciate it.
I think that's exactly right, and that's one of the niches that the Sports Commission has tried to fill, is to look at what's not here in the St. Louis sports landscape and add to it, and I point to wrestling. We've had 12 NCAA wrestling championships here in St. Louis. There's so many sports, so many wonderful sports that this community celebrates and supports.
In the news business, we used to say, if it bleeds, it leads. The problem is that most of the stuff you see and hear and read about is negative, but there's so much positive stuff that goes on here. How do you sell St. Louis as the St. Louis Sports Commission?
Well, you sell St. Louis by what you're talking about, that positivity, okay? The passion of St. Louis sports fans, the support of St. Louis sports media, the financial resources that we've received from the St. Louis sports business community. It's truly, when you look at this community that doesn't come together in too many ways for too many things, it comes together beautifully for sports.
It really does. Competition, Indy, Nashville, Chicago. How do you counteract that? How do you win that battle?
Well, you try to win that battle by experience, the reputation, the success, the facilities, and most importantly, and the thing I'm most proud of with the Sports Commission, aside from the Musial Awards, is the team that we've built. And that's what comes together to win these events.
So many great events in your 27 years here. What was your biggest get? What was your biggest event, the one you're most proud of?
Oh, the biggest get had to be the NCAA men's Final Four in 05. And I don't think St. Louis has ever looked that good and felt that good about itself as it did that weekend.
That was at the Dome, wasn't it?
That was at the Dome, and I remember Bob Bowlesby, who was the chair of the NCAA Men's Basketball Committee, he said at the press conference the day after the event, he said, "I love a city that under-promises and over-delivers."
What was that your proudest moment?
Was that my proudest moment? Oh, I mean, I've had so many wonderful moments, but I was proud of the community that day. I was proud of the community so often, and that has to be near the top.
Where do we go from here?
Well, I think we sort of dig deep. We try to come together as a region, and we try to bring back of events like a Final Four. We're the only dome in the country that's not in the rotation right now, and I'd love to see us back in contention for the biggest of events.
What needs to be worked on, sports-wise, in the city to get things? What needs to be worked on?
The two things that are most important to be worked on are facilities and revenue, and we've fallen behind in the revenue game. That I talk about the first time that we bid for the NCAA wrestling championships, there were 3 cities bidding for 3 years of events. We each got 1. This time around, there were 24 cities bidding for 4 years, and we didn't get an event. We're not only outbid, but usually it's that we're outspent.
Is the development at the Dome and that convention center, is that helpful?
It's not just helpful, it's very important, yes. We have to be not just adequate in our facilities and our support, but we have to be competitive, and we have to be better than many other cities that are really putting in some resources.
Thanks for all the interviews, and thank you for 27 years. Welcome to the St. Louis Sports Hall of Fame, Frank Viverito.
Thanks a lot, Ron. Thank you.
Recognized as a champion sponsor tonight.
First Bank. Family business presenting the award is our Don Jacoby. There he is. And representing First Bank is Joe Ambrose, Executive Director of the
Since our last enshrinement in February, the St. Louis Sports Hall of Fame lost a leader and a great friend, no doubt a friend to many in this room. Mike Hogan was chairman of our board of directors, and his obituary stated in March that he was optimistic and believed that it never hurt to ask, even if the problem to be solved seemed impossible. He lent his time and considerable talent in the business sector to countless community agencies, boards, and nonprofits. Our Hall of Fame was fortunate to be one. And Mike was a huge blues fan and would have enjoyed the next segment of the night very much. Rest in peace, Mike Hogan. So when the Blues traded Brendan Shanahan to acquire Chris Pronger in 1995, it was a big, what the hell, for fans. Then when the team traded him to the Edmonton Oilers in 2005, it was a gigantic, what the hell, right? We all were wondering what was going on. But those years wearing the Blue Note have earned him a place in the Hockey Hall of Fame, the Blues Hall of Fame, and tonight, the St. Louis Sports Hall of Fame.
Nasty, hard to play against. You know, he put the fear in God in a lot of guys.
This guy's unreal, real competitive, sometimes too competitive. There was a line, and then the Chris Pronger line. And that Chris Pronger line was way up high, and he wouldn't feel bad.
The unfortunate part when you had him as a partner, everybody dumped it in your corner. Nobody wanted to dump it in his corner and go get it.
That's how I always played. Played with an edge, played hard. I'm sorry, but that's the only way I know how to play the game.
Chris Pronger, imposing, feared, and dominant. Standing 6'6", he played against the toughest opponents in all situations, yet could control the pace of a game with his long reach and soft hands. Born in Dryden, Ontario, Pronger patrolled the blue line for the Peterborough Petes of the OHL before being selected second overall at the 1993 NHL draft by the Hartford Whalers. He made the Whalers as a teenager, but was traded to the St. Louis Blues after his sophomore season.
I was a little surprised initially just from the fact that I was just fishing with Paul Holmgren, who was our head coach. He checked in with the front office and they said they were trading me.
He had a lot of pressure on him. He got traded for a big-time player here and a fan favorite in Brendan Shanahan. He felt he had a lot to prove.
A great trade for me in my career to go to an organization like St. Louis and have the players of the caliber of Brett Hull and Grant Fuhr and Al McInnes.
He had, the foundation. He needed to build off that, and that's what he did. He got himself bigger, stronger, faster, and turned himself into one of the best defensemen that ever played the game.
Pronger's point totals ascended each of his first 5 seasons in St. Louis. In 1999-2000, he was an NHL best plus 52 while playing more than 30 minutes per game.
You had a really good chance of winning those 30 or 32 minutes every night. Now you just had to figure out how to win the other 28.
That same season, he attained career highs in points and assists and was awarded both the Hart and Norris trophies, becoming the first defenseman since Bobby Orr to win the Hart.
He won the MVP of the NHL. Not too many D have done that. Bobby Orr.
That's probably the only comparison between me and Bobby Orr.
That's tall cotton right there.
Tall cotton indeed, Holly. I didn't realize it at the time, but it was an honor to announce every penalty Prongs took in a Blues uniform. And the goals and assists, too. So, details on Chris's great career in tonight's program written by Ron Jacober. Ron will do the interview. Now, please welcome to the St. Louis Sports Hall of Fame, Chris Pronger.
You did the same thing when the Blues retired your number, right?
I figured I better bring it up here.
A little Bud White.
I want to leave it out.
July 27th, 1995. The Blues coach and general manager, a guy named Mike Keenan, made the trade, sending a very popular player, Brendan Shanahan, to the Hartford Whalers. I covered the team pretty much daily in those days, and I remember going to see Keenan, and I said, "Do you know what you did?" He looked at me, and he pointed at me, and he said, someday, Chris Pronger will be the best defenseman in the National Hockey League. Now, Mike Keenan wasn't right about much, frankly, but he was right about that. That was a tough trade for you, wasn't it?
Was not the easiest of first years.
Yeah, I remember some Blues fans booing you because they blamed
Really?
you for the trade.
I don't remember that. They were liking me with Lou.
Yeah, right.
That's what I remember.
And I recall, don't know if it was after a morning skate or after a game, but there were 2 or 3 of us standing around your locker, and the name of Shanahan came up, and you turned and looked at me, and he said, "If you bring that name up to me again, I'm gonna." And you didn't have to finish the sentence because I knew you were talking about a 10-minute misconduct and a game misconduct, probably. You'd have beat the hell out of me.
What day did I get traded here again?
July 27th, 1995.
So his name was probably brought up 300 days in a row.
I believe it. I believe it. It was a less than popular trade, but within 3 years, you were the Blues captain wearing the C on your sweater, right?
David, does that remind you of something? Captain, 3 years, there it is.
You're a member of the Triple Gold Club. 2 Olympic gold medals, a World Championship gold, and a Stanley Cup. All right, now, which one of the 3 is most important to you?
That's actually a great question. Nobody's ever asked that, Ron. That's why you do what you do.
Thank you.
Nobody's ever asked.
I've got another question you've never been asked, too, by the way.
The Olympic gold probably means the most. But
And you got 2 of them, right?
I have 2 of them, but which one?
Well, I don't know. You have to tell me which one.
2010 in Vancouver probably means the most.
Vancouver.
'Cause it was
One
on
was
home
Salt
soil.
Lake, one was Vancouver, right?
But I would say the World Junior means the most.
Really?
It was the first one. It was 1993. We beat some young Swedish guy by the name of Peter Forsberg, who was kind of running roost and kind of killing every team. And he led the World Junior Championships. I think he had 34 points or something.
Yeah.
And it was, he was on an impressive run. We got pounded by them in our exhibition game, I think 10-4. There may have been a line brawl or two in that game.
Yeah, yeah.
And then sent a message for the real game that mattered, and we were fortunate enough to win. But I think all of those teams all had the same mindset, and it was to get better with each game, get better with each shift. And we always didn't win the first game, but we were going to win the last game.
Right.
And as competitors and people that love to push one another to get better, win the last game is all that matters.
You were traded from St. Louis in probably a pretty stupid trade, but the current owner of the team at the time wanted to sell the team. And the reason he wanted to sell the team, he bought the team because he wanted an NBA franchise here. And he got the building and the Blues, but he wanted also NBA, and he didn't get it. So he figured that the best way to get what he felt the team was worth was to trade you and your contract, which was bad for the Blues, but very good for Chris Pronger.
It was great for me and bad for me. Edmonton was a fresh start, but a one-year pit stop on my way to Anaheim, and then obviously Philadelphia, where I finished my career. But it's funny, when people talk to me and ask me about St. Louis, I'm like, well, I got here when I was 20. I lived here 10 years, so half my pro career. And then after my years in Philly, moved back. I've been here now 11 years, so I've been here 21 years. My pro career was 19. I'm like, okay, I've been here longer than my pro career. And people talk about, well, you're Canadian, but you've been in America for 28 years, 29 years.
Yeah.
And I started adding all these numbers up. I'm like, well, I'm actually more American than I'm Canadian. But it's hard to understand. But St. Louis has always been a huge part of my life. Obviously, my wife, Lauren, over here is from St. Louis. We had two of our kids here. And, it's been home ever since my career was over.
1,343 games. That's a lot of games. That's a lot. That's a lot of hits. That's only regular
given
season.
And taken.
Given, yeah, but most of them were given, I think. You were nasty, weren't you?
That's the only way I know how to play.
Yeah, I mean, you put the fear of God in a lot of forwards, I got to tell you.
I learned early on, when I was a young kid, it's better for them to be fearful than to like you. On any number of fronts, in school and playing the game of hockey. But
there you go.
I used that to my advantage. When I turned pro, Brad McCrimmon, who passed away with Pavel Demetious in that plane crash in Russia, was my first defense partner. He always told me, you need to be unpredictable. And I'm like, oh, I already am. He's like, no, but you got to be unpredictable.
Yeah.
They don't need to know what you need to do. I go, I don't know what I'm going to do.
Do you have a favorite coach?
I have lots of them. Believe it or not, I did like Mike Keenan as a coach. Maybe not that first year.
He thought you were out of shape, didn't he?
Yeah, that amongst a whole host of other things, but I needed to get my mind straight. We don't all grow up at 18, 19. It took me a few years, but he was instrumental in getting my career on track, getting me to understand fitness. Al McInnes was another big part of understanding fitness and getting in shape and playing up to your abilities. And then obviously Joel came in and kind of helped me take my game to the next level with Jimmy Roberts, longtime Blue, and Mike Kitchen. For my time here in St. Louis, they were huge parts of kind of taking me under their wing and working with me each and every day in practice, and then obviously allowing me to play 30 minutes a night and do what I do.
You were pretty familiar with the penalty box, weren't you? You had 1,590 minutes in penalties in your career.
You keep going back to that.
Well, the reason, this is a question, because that was part of you. But the question you probably never been asked before, did you have a favorite penalty box in NHL?
Only next to you. I know, but only next to you. But
okay.
Not really.
Well, some of the
I
fans could.
I wasn't really paying attention to the people in the box. I was more staring down at the guy over there, telling him I may do something not nice.
You got to know one another pretty well, Tom just said. Couple of things that I had to bring up because people are going to ask about it. You were hit in the heart with a slap shot, and you know the recent Damar Hamlin situation in football where he was really unconscious and they had to revive him, had to give him CPR in the field. Yours was not that bad, but people remembered your situation after Hamlin went down.
Yeah, funny enough, I didn't really recall it as well as maybe others might have. I had to reach out to Ray Borelli, our trainer, who's still the Blues trainer, and I'm asking him some questions. Like, so when I was laying on the ice, what was going on? He's like, well, actually, we were kind of losing our marbles. We didn't have a defibrillator. We didn't have a ambulance that was loaded with all the things they have now. And he's like, yeah, your lips were turning blue. You weren't breathing. And I'm like, okay, well, thanks for telling me now. A little late. But, yeah, everything that Damar Hamlin went through, I went through, obviously not to the level that he did.
Right.
And from that incident, 3 years later, Yuri Fisher had a heart attack on the ice in Detroit, same building we were in. And because of that incident that I had, they had defibrillators. They had moved the doctors down closer to the benches.
Right.
At that time, that specific incident, he was on the bench, much like Jerry Bomeister in Anaheim. And the doctor jumped over the boards, came over, gave him mouth-to-mouth, and hit him with the paddles and everything. It was impressive.
But you lost consciousness, but your heart never stopped, right?
No, it did.
It did stop.
Yeah. I think I told people that it didn't, maybe just
that's what I heard.
Lack of memory, but as I talked to Ray, he's like, oh no, you were out.
You were out. It's
So.
pretty scary. Finally,
maybe that's why I came back 2 days later.
You did come back 2 days later.
I didn't want to know. You kind of turn that stuff off.
And finally, and I don't mean to be negative here, but your career basically ended when you were hit in the eye with a stick, and a very inadvertent
I thought
stick.
we were doing positive stuff here tonight.
Well, I know, but we need to talk about how it ended for you, because you got hit in the eye. It's affected, I guess, still your eyesight, right? Am I accurate with that?
Correct.
You were out for quite a while, came back and tried to play 5 games, and the Flyers announced that you were going to be. You couldn't play any for a while because of concussion syndrome, but you never played again.
Yeah, no, so I obviously had a number of concussions as a kid, as an NHL hockey player, junior player. At that time, it wasn't really considered a concussion. It was
you got your bell rung,
seeing
right?
stars, getting your bell rung. I got a stinger, whatever you want to call it. And then as things went along, you know, I was hardwired to play the game and kind of brush things off until you can't brush them off. I got the stick in the eye, and at that time, the full impact of the stick hit me directly in the eye. I had like a little two-stitch cut, and my, you know, obviously the swelling and the bleeding was in my eye, and I was more worried about my eye than my head.
Yeah.
And as things played out over the next 5 or 6 days, I laid in bed and let all the blood dissipate. You know, I chalked everything up to, well, I'm laying in bed. I laid there. I think they told me I had to lay there for 9 days. Then I walked. Then I went to the rink and rode the bike for like 10 minutes. Then I practiced by myself. Then I got on the ice and practiced with the team. And I'm like, you know, I was lightheaded and nauseous and wasn't feeling good. And I'm like, I've been off the ice for 11 days. You know, everybody's going to feel this way. Just like I did over and over and over every time. I'm like, mind over matter, I'll be fine. And I practiced the next day, and I still didn't feel good. I'm like, it's going to get better. I'm out of shape. Everything chalked up to out of shape.
Right.
And then we played the next night in Tampa, and this is the game where we just kind of stood there and passed the puck back and forth because they weren't pressuring. So I didn't really have to do anything, so I felt good that game. And then we played the next night in Florida, and I slid and blocked a shot, and then I kind of jammed my neck into the boards and did a bunch of stuff and didn't feel good. And I progressively got worse and worse and worse and worse. And finally, we went to Winnipeg, and it was super loud. And I started doing things that were completely out of my character. I went to take a one-timer, and I fell down. I grabbed the puck one time, and normally I know where everybody is on the ice. I turned, and this guy was literally right in front of me. I'm like, oh, my God, if I didn't have the reputation I had, this guy would have killed me. So I'm like, all right, I need to step back and take a hard look at what I'm doing. And, you know, with Lauren and the kids and everybody kind of walking me through it, I went to Pittsburgh, saw Mickey Collins at the UPMC Center, and he's basically looking at me like, "You're playing?" And I'm like, "Well, it's kind of what I do." And he's like, "Well, you're not doing that no more."
Yeah.
So that was it. I'm like, okay. You know, I came home, talked to her. Mickey called, talked to Lauren, and just kind of walked through kind of what the next steps are going to look like. It probably took a year and a half to really work through the symptoms, work through my eyes, and now, all while I was here, actually at UMSL. That's where I did it.
Why aren't you in hockey? The game needs you.
No, they don't.
I don't mean playing.
No, they don't need me. They're good. They're in great shape.
You don't want to coach or anything?
No. I don't need to be drinking anymore.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the St. Louis Sports Hall of Fame, Chris Pronger.
Folks, our next honoree earned his place in our hall as a high school football coach. Football talent at the high school level has its highs and lows, but that didn't stop Rick Gorzynski from being an assistant winner in his 27 years at Hazelwood East. Check out these facts. Overall record, 230 wins, 57 losses, 12 conference championships, 12 Missouri district championships, 2 state championships in 1989 and 95. More on that coming up in a moment. Some of the honors Coach Gorzynski has already received include Missouri High School Coach of the Year, Sporting News National Coach of the Year, 2-time Post-Dispatch High School Coach of the Year, Athletic Director's Distinguished Service Award, the Jimmy Conselman Award from the National Football Foundation. And that's just a partial list. Michael Young played on the 95 state championship team.
You know, being around Gorzynski, Coach Gorzynski, you just heard all these different stories about, you know, how he was as a coach, how he was as a disciplinarian. But one thing I can say, man, all the players he had our respect. And you knew what the tradition was, you knew to fall in line, you knew what to do, what the assignment was. And the assignment was to win the state championship.
Coach Gorzynski has sent countless student athletes on to Division I, II, and III football scholarships. 12 of his former players were drafted by or played in the NFL. So there's an obvious reason the gridiron at Hazelwood East is named Rick Gorzynski Field. We are pleased that current Hazelwood Central football coach and former NFL running back and 101 ESPN morning show personality Kerry Davis has joined us tonight to interview Coach Gorzynski. Now, please welcome to the St. Louis Sports Hall of Fame, with your applause, Rick Gorzynski.
Coach, congratulations. Very well deserved. So tell me, first of all, I want to qualify this. Go Hawks!
Well, who is a rival, but it was a good rivalry.
It was.
A lot of fun.
It was. Coach, tell me how a young man from Chicago, high school in Chicago, comes to Missouri, St. Louis, Missouri, and coaches 30 years here. What brought you here?
Well, number one was most of the head coaches in the St. Louis area, football-wise, were from Northeast Missouri at the time. And I had like 5 years of college. And there's nothing I wanted to do more than spend some more time in a school. So anyhow, I was able to get a job. They recruited me, actually, from Kirksville. And I said, I'll give it 1 year. Well, 33 years later, I was still there. So that's how I began my career.
Coach, you had 19 players sign an NFL contract. Hundreds of kids play collegiate football. What goes into building a program like that at Hazelwood East?
Well, I think it's developing relationships. Now, you can feel what you want about Coach Pride at Colorado, but you can see that it's relationships that you have with the kids. If they know you care about them and you want the best for them, not only on the field, but education-wise, then you've got something.
Now, Coach, you were two times. You're a two-time state champion as a head coach at Hazelwood East. What were some of your best moments as a head coach there?
Well, the best moment I ever had was, now we had 1,500 students in our school. And in 89 through 95, we managed in USA Today, we were second in the nation as far as football goes. And you take all the high schools in the United States, and to be second, you're saying our program was probably pretty good.
Very good. Now, along with some of those great seasons, you also had a season where you went 10-0, but were unable to make it to the state playoffs because of a point system that the Missouri State High School Association had going at the time.
Yeah, 1979, and you talk about the sad times a coach has. Going into a locker room when the team was undefeated and telling the kids the season's over. And after finishing 10-0, we actually had kids crying in the locker room, which should never happen. But unfortunately, those were the rules of Missouri. Now, I always said that the motto of Missouri, the show me state, shouldn't be that. It should be, we'll show you state, you know. It's kind of backwards, you know. We want everybody and we're watching everybody, and then we take the good ideas and then instead of making our own decisions.
Now, Coach, I talked to some of my former coaches who you coached against, Coach Hotfelder, Coach Pacella, Coach Ryan, and they all said the same thing about you. They said, you know, Coach Gorzynski was a player's coach. His kids loved him. They worked hard for him. He was an innovative offensive mind. Coach Hotfelder told me to remind you, he said he could hear you from across the field, and your statement was, don't kick the ball to Van Zandt.
Yeah.
Tony Van Zandt, 2018 Hall of Fame induction for the St. Louis Sports Hall of Fame.
Unfortunately, we did kick the ball to Van Zandt, and he ran it all the way back for a touchdown. So that's the way high school football goes.
Well, Coach, you amassed a 230 win, 57 loss, 1 tie record, sent countless numbers of kids to college, changing their lives. I just want to welcome you to the St. Louis Sports Hall of Fame, and thank you for all that you've done in our community.
Now, I'm accepting this award, not for myself, and everybody knows it takes more than just one guy to, you know, coach a team. There's assistant coaches, there's guys that take the film, there's guys that have to report back to the newspaper. So I'm accepting this award for the program at Hazelwood East High School, and thank you.
Congratulations.
As part of our recognition of Coach Gorzynski's career, our Champions Award recipients tonight are his 1989 and 1995 Hazelwood East Spartans Missouri State Championship teams. The 89 Spartans had a perfect 14-0 record and earned the state championship by defeating Kansas City Rockhurst 28-14 at Thoreau Field in Columbia. The team was ranked second in the nation that year, and Coach Gorzynski was named Coach of the Year. The 95 team had also a 14-0 record, led by Post-Dispatch Player of the Year running back Ricardo Rhodes. 231 yards in the state championship game over Blue Springs South. 42-3 was that score. On behalf of all of us with the St. Louis Sports Hall of Fame, thank you for attending tonight's event and reminding us with your support what a truly great sports town St. Louis is. Please visit our website and stay in touch with our social media to know about upcoming events and news on our February enshrinement. Please drive home safely, and good night, everybody. Thanks for coming.